I'm 81. I wasted 50 years being a good wife. Last night, I realized I don't even know who I am. I have this callus on my finger. Right here, on the side of my thumb. It's been there for maybe 40 years now. Doesn't go away. Peeling potatoes, every single day. Peeling potatoes for someone else's dinner. I look at it sometimes and I think, that's me. That's 50 years of my life, right there. A hard little patch of skin that formed because I kept doing the same thing over and over, whether I wanted to or not. Last night I couldn't sleep. I was lying in bed, in the dark, and the house was so quiet. It's been quiet for 8 months now, since he passed. And I was lying there, and I realized I didn't know what side of the bed I actually prefer. I've slept on the left side for 53 years because he liked the right. The right was closer to the door. He said it made him feel like the protector. So I took the left. And last night I thought, do I even like the left? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. That's when it hit me. I'm 81 years old, and I don't know the simplest things about myself. What's my favorite color? I don't know. For 50 years, I decorated around his preferences. He liked brown, earth tones, he called them. So our couch was brown, our curtains were beige, our bedroom was the color of sand. I remember once, maybe 30 years ago, I saw this beautiful blue vase in a shop window. Cobalt blue. It made something in my chest ache just looking at it. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes. Then I went home and didn't buy it. Because it wouldn't match. It wouldn't fit into our brown life. I think about that vase sometimes. I wonder if it's still out there somewhere, in someone else's home. Someone who let themselves have it. The first part of me I buried. I think it was my voice. Not literally, I could still speak. But I stopped saying what I actually thought. It happened slowly. You don't notice it at first. You hold back one opinion because it's not worth the argument. Then another. Then another. And one day, you realize you haven't said anything real in years. You've just been agreeing, nodding, smoothing things over. There was this wallpaper in our first apartment, yellow with little flowers. I hated it. It gave me headaches. But he said it was cheerful, that it reminded him of his mother's kitchen. So I said nothing. I lived with that headache for 4 years until we moved, and in the new place, he picked beige. I said nothing again. And by the third place, he didn't even ask anymore. He just chose. And I just existed in whatever colors he decided I should live in. I can tell you the color of every room where I swallowed my words. Mint green in 1974. That was the year I wanted to visit my sister in California, and he said we couldn't afford it. We could afford it. Dusty rose in 1981, when I mentioned maybe going back to work, and he laughed, actually laughed, and said what for? Cream, just plain cream, in 1989, when our daughter asked me why I never seemed happy, and I told her I didn't know what she meant. I knew exactly what she meant. You want to know something I've never told anyone? Every Friday for 50 years, I made fried fish. He loved fried fish. The smell of it makes me sick. Always has. The oil, the way it clings to everything, the way the whole house smells like it for days afterward. I would stand at that stove, the oil spitting at my arms, and I would think about the ocean. Not eating fish from it, just being near it. I've never seen the ocean. 50 years of frying fish from the ocean, and I've never once stood at the edge of it. 3 weeks after he passed, I was standing in the grocery store, and it was Friday, and I walked past the fish counter, and I just kept walking. I walked to the aisle with olives. I don't know why. I just remembered that I used to love olives when I was young. before. And I bought a jar. And I bought ice cream. Vanilla with chocolate pieces. And I went home, and I sat at his chair at the head of the table where I was never allowed to sit, and I ate olives and ice cream for dinner. It was the strangest meal of my life. It didn't go together at all. But it was mine. I chose it. The salt and the sweet and the cold. I sat there and I cried. And I didn't even know if I was crying because I was sad or because I was finally tasting something I actually wanted. How many times did I say yes when everything inside me was screaming no? I can't count that high. Yes, we can have your mother over every Sunday. Yes, I'll iron your shirts the way you like. Yes, I'll cancel my plans. Yes, I'll stay home. Yes, I'll make what you want for dinner. Yes, I'll wear the dress you prefer. Yes, I'll be quieter. Yes, I'll stop bringing it up. Yes, I'll pretend I'm fine. There's a kind of violence in all those yeses. I know that now. Every time I said yes when I meant no, I was cutting off a small piece of myself. And I smiled while I did it. That's the part that haunts me. I smiled. I made it look easy. I made it look like love. Women of my generation, we were taught that this was love. Giving yourself away, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. They called it sacrifice. They called it devotion. They called it being a good wife. But I'll tell you what it actually was. It was disappearing. Slowly, politely, with dinner on the table by 6, I used to stand at the kitchen sink, washing his shirts. He was particular about his shirts. They had to be done a certain way, hung a certain way, ironed with the collar just so, and I would stand there, my hands in the soapy water, and I would think about a girl I knew in high school, Eleanor. She moved to New York after graduation. She wanted to be a writer. I wonder sometimes what happened to her, if she made it, if she's still alive, if she ever stood at a sink washing someone else's shirts and wondering where her life went. I had things I wanted too. I wanted to travel. I wanted to learn French. I wanted to take painting classes. Small things, really. Nothing extravagant. But there was never time. There was never money. There was never permission. Though I didn't realize I was waiting for permission. I thought I was being practical. I thought I was being responsible. I thought I was being good. Now I'm 81 and I don't speak French, and I've never painted anything, and the farthest I've ever been from home is 3 states over for my nephew's wedding. When did I last look in the mirror and see a woman? Not someone's wife, not someone's mother, just a woman. I don't remember. It's been so long that I don't remember. These days, I look in the mirror and I see a stranger. She has my mother's eyes. She has wrinkles I don't recognize. She looks tired. She looks like someone who spent a very long time waiting for something that never came. There were moments, I'm not going to lie and say there weren't, moments when I imagined a different life. I would be standing at the stove, or folding laundry, or lying awake at night listening to him snore. And I would let myself imagine. What if I had said no? What if I had left? What if I had chosen myself, just once? And then the guilt would come. It always came, like a wave, like a punishment. How could I think such things? I had a roof over my head. I had children. I had stability. There were women who had it so much worse. Who was I to complain? Who was I to want more? I would push those thoughts down so deep. I became an expert at it, burying things, smiling over the grave. But they don't stay buried. That's what nobody tells you. All those swallowed words, all those abandoned dreams, all those small deaths, they're still in there. They rot. They turn into something else. Bitterness, maybe. Or just this hollow feeling like you've been emptied out from the inside. The air in this apartment now, it's different. I don't know how to explain it. For 50 years, there was this weight. Not just him, physically, but his presence, his opinions, his needs. The way everything revolved around keeping him comfortable. The way I arranged my whole existence around not upsetting him. And now he's gone, and the air is lighter. I can breathe in a way I couldn't before. And I feel guilty for noticing that. I feel guilty for feeling relief. What kind of woman feels relief when her husband dies? What kind of wife? But I do. I breathe, and the air tastes different. It tastes like possibility. It tastes like 50 years too late. Why didn't I leave? Why didn't I leave 30 years ago when I still had time? When I could have started over? I've asked myself that question every day for the last 8 months. The answer is complicated. The answer is that I was afraid. Not of him, exactly. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't violent. He was just certain. Certain that his way was right. Certain that he knew best. And I was uncertain. I was trained to be uncertain. I was raised to doubt myself, to defer, to accommodate. And there was the fear of what people would say, the neighbors, the family, the church. A woman who leaves her husband, even an unhappy woman, even a woman who is slowly suffocating. She was a quitter. She was selfish. She was someone who couldn't make it work. I was more afraid of their judgment than I was of losing myself. That's the truth I have to live with now. I chose their approval over my own life. I chose the appearance of a good marriage over the reality of my own existence. I think about my daughter sometimes. She's 54 now, and I see her doing the same things I did. Deferring to her husband, putting herself last, making herself smaller to keep the peace. And I want to grab her by the shoulders and shake her. I want to tell her not to end up like me. But how can I? What right do I have? I taught her this. I modeled it. Every single day of her childhood, she watched me disappear, and she learned that this is what women do. If I could go back. If I could find that girl I was at 20, standing in her wedding dress, so full of hope and so blind, what would I tell her? I don't know if she would listen. I don't know if anyone listens to warnings like this. We all think we'll be different. We all think our love is special, that we won't make the same mistakes. But if she would listen, if I could whisper something to her before she walked down that aisle, I would tell her, "You are going to spend the next 50 years slowly becoming invisible. You are going to wake up one day, old and alone, and you won't know who you are anymore. You will have given everything away, and there will be nothing left. You will look at your hands and see calluses from work you never wanted to do. You will stand in an empty kitchen and realize you don't even know what food you like." And then I would tell her the hardest thing of all. I would tell her it won't feel like sacrifice at the time. It will feel like love. It will feel like the right thing to do. It will feel like being good. And that's the trap. That's how they get you. They make disappearing feel like virtue. I'm 81 years old. I have maybe a few years left. Maybe more. Maybe less. Nobody knows. And I'm supposed to tell you that I've found myself now. That's how these stories go, isn't it? That in these final years, I've finally started living. That I've discovered who I am. But I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know who I am. 50 years is a long time. Too long. You can't just find yourself after 50 years of being lost. It doesn't work like that. What I have is fragments, small discoveries. I know I don't like fried fish. I know I like olives. I know I prefer the radio to the television. I know I like to sleep late, something I was never allowed to do. I know I enjoy sitting in silence, real silence, without waiting for someone to need something from me. But a whole self? An identity? No. That was buried too long ago. That girl who had dreams and preferences and a voice. She's gone. I can't bring her back. I can only mourn her. The women I grew up with, the women of my generation. Most of them did what I did. We all performed the same disappearing act. We all stood at the same sinks, ironed the same shirts, swallowed the same words. And most of them are dead now. They died, still performing. They never had the terrible gift of 8 months alone to realize what they'd lost. I don't know if that makes them luckier, or if it makes me. Was it worth it? 50 years of peacekeeping, of smoothing over, of being good. Was it worth the cost of myself? No, it wasn't. But I don't know what else I could have done. That's the cruel part. I don't know what else was possible. The world I lived in, the choices I had, the person I was taught to be. Maybe this was always going to happen. Maybe I was always going to end up here. 81 years old, eating olives alone, wondering who I might have been. I look at young women now and I want to say something. I want to warn them. But the world is different now, isn't it? They have choices I didn't have. They have words for things we didn't have words for. Maybe they won't end up like me. Or maybe they will. Maybe the trap just looks different now. Maybe they're disappearing in new ways, for new reasons, with new smiles. I don't know. All I know is this. I'm 81 years old. I wasted 50 years being a good wife. And last night, lying in the dark, on the left side of the bed, I realized I don't even know who I am, and I probably never will. This is not a story with a happy ending. This is not a lesson. This is just what happened, what I let happen, what I helped happen. If you're listening to this, and something in you recognizes something, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not wise. I'm just old. I'm just someone who can finally say out loud what I couldn't say for 50 years. The fish is still in my freezer. I can't bring myself to throw it away. It would feel like admitting something I'm not ready to admit. So it sits there, frozen, waiting. Just like I did. Just like I did.